Hi everyone, I'm Shy and welcome to my channel. For a long time, I thought manifesting was something I had to learn how to do correctly. I watched the videos, I saved the posts, I memorized the language. I tried to follow the rules as closely as possible, believing that if I just aligned myself enough, that the right thoughts, felt the right feelings, stayed consistent long enough, then reality would finally respond. But underneath all of that effort was a quiet assumption I hadn't questioned yet. That manifesting was something happening outside of me. That it was a system I had to please. That my role was to perform correctly and wait. Once I noticed that assumption, everything unraveled in the best way. There is a subtle power shift that happens when you consume manifestation content long enough. At first, it feels empowering. Then, without realizing it, you start deferring to other people's interpretations more than your own inner knowing. You start wondering whether you're doing it right, whether you're aligned enough, whether you've ruined something by reacting or doubting or resting. That's when manifesting stops feeling like freedom and starts feeling like pressure. I realized I had given authority away. I was letting external voices define how my reality should respond to my consciousness. And the truth is, no one else lives in your mind. No one else experiences reality from your point of view. So I took my authority back. I decided that my inner world sets the rules, not trends, not methods, not timelines, not anyone else's success story. The moment I stopped asking how manifesting works and started deciding how it works for me, things softened, effort dissolved, and results stopped feeling so far away. Most people struggle with manifesting because they think it's something they turn on and off. They believe they manifest when they affirm, visualize, script, or meditate, and then stop manifesting when they go about their day. But manifesting doesn't start when you sit down to do something. It starts with who you believe yourself to be. Your identity is always active. It's running in the background whether you're conscious of it or not. Every assumption you hold about yourself, about relationships, about money, about life, these assumptions are constantly expressing themselves. That's why rituals don't create manifestations on their own. They only work when they reflect an identity shift that's already happening internally. If you see yourself as someone who expects things to work out, life responds with ease. If you see yourself as someone who has to struggle, life mirrors resistance. If you see yourself as someone who is chosen, valued, and supported, you stop chasing proof of that externally. Manifesting doesn't require more effort. It requires more honesty about what you're already assuming and the courage to choose again. One of the biggest changes I made was letting go of the idea that I need permission. I don't ask the universe nicely and wait. I don't hope something is meant for me. I don't decide whether it's aligned or allowed or possible. I decide. Decision is final internally, even if the external world hasn't caught up yet. And that's where most people lose confidence. They wait for reality to confirm their decision before they fully settle into it. But manifestation doesn't work that way. The inner decision comes first. The external confirmation comes later. When you reverse that order, you stay dependent on circumstances for certainty. When I decide something is mine, there's a calm that follows. Not excitement, not desperation, just knowing. I stop checking, I stop convincing, I stop hovering over the outcome. Reality responds to clarity, not urgency, not neediness, and not overthinking. I stopped believing that I have to feel good all the time to manifest. That belief alone creates anxiety. It makes people afraid of their own emotions. It turns normal human experiences into perceived failures. Emotions are not the problem. Identification is. I let emotions exist without giving them authority over my identity. I can feel frustrated and still know what I've decided. I can feel tired and still trust the outcome. I can have a doubtful thought and not spiral into self-correction mode. One emotional moment does not undo a settled assumption. When you stop fearing emotions, you stop reacting to them. And when you stop reacting, they move through naturally instead of lingering. Manifestation isn't fragile. It doesn't collapse because you have had a bad day. It's stable because it's rooted in identity, not mood. At some point, I realized I had turned manifesting into something sacred and untouchable, something that required constant awareness, something that could be ruined, something that demanded vigilance. That mindset alone creates tension. Manifesting is not special, it's natural. It's consciousness doing what it has always done, expressing assumptions outwardly. You don't stop manifesting when you're distracted. You don't pause it when you're tired. You don't break it by living your life. When you put manifesting on a pedestal, you give it power over you. When you normalize it, you reclaim that power. I live my life. I make decisions. I move forward. And manifestation unfolds around that, not instead of it. Techniques are tools, not requirements. They don't create power, they reflect it. They help you feel into an assumption you've already chosen, but they don't replace self-trust. I don't rely on techniques to convince me that something is working. I use them only when they feel supportive, and sometimes I don't use them at all. Nothing falls apart. When you trust yourself, techniques become optional. When you don't trust yourself, techniques become a way to manage fear. Your power was never in repetition, perfection, or consistency. It was always in what you assumed to be true about yourself. After all the theories, methods, and interpretations, everything comes back to this. What I assume to be true becomes true. Not what I worry about, not what I momentarily feel, not what I overanalyze, what I consistently assume about myself, about others, about life, it solidifies. That's why I don't argue with reality when things take time. I don't chase proof. I don't spiral when the outside hasn't caught up yet. I know who I am. I know what I've decided. And I let reality rearrange in response. Manifesting stops being a practice when you stop trying to follow rules and start trusting your own authority. It becomes self-leadership. It becomes identity. It becomes normal. You were never meant to ask for permission. You were meant to decide and let the world respond. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.